In the last video, we broke down the horrifying final minute of UPS Flight 2976, the moment a fully loaded MD-11 erupted into flames and tore through warehouses just beyond Louisville's runway 17. Now, the NTSB has released new details straight from the cockpit voice recorder, and the latest on-scene briefings and what they reveal is intense. For the first time, we know exactly when that warning bell began, how long the crew fought to regain control, and what investigators discovered about the engine and pylon that ripped away. This isn't speculation anymore, it's the early, factual timeline of a disaster that unfolded in just 25 seconds of pure chaos. Let's start with what's confirmed. The cockpit voice recorder, what we call the CVR, was recovered in remarkably good condition. It captured 2 hours and 4 minutes of clean digital audio. That means investigators got everything: pre-flight checklists, communications, and the takeoff roll itself. And here's what stands out. The entire departure sounded completely normal. The pilots ran through their checklists, confirmed thrust settings, and rolled down the runway like they'd done hundreds of times before. There were no warnings, no signs of trouble, until about 37 seconds after the crew called for takeoff thrust. That's when a repeating bell kicked in. In aviation, a repeating bell is basically a general warning tone, one of those sounds that tells the crew something serious has gone wrong, but it doesn't specify what. It could indicate fire, a system failure, or an urgent engine issue. Investigators haven't said which one this was yet. They'll need to match the audio with the flight data recorder, the FDR, to confirm what triggered it. But we do know that this alarm did not stop. It continued for 25 straight seconds, right up to the moment the recording ends, almost certainly the moment of impact. That's what makes this so chilling. 25 seconds of warning. 25 seconds where the crew knew something catastrophic was happening. And according to NTSB member Todd Inman, those final seconds captured the pilots actively trying to control the aircraft, doing everything they could with almost no altitude and no time. Now, the NTSB has assembled a specialized CVR group experts who know the MD-11 inside and out to create a full written transcript. That transcript won't be public until much later when the full docket is released. But for now, this single timeline, 37 seconds after thrust, bell starts, 25 seconds later, impact, gives us a factual foundation. It's not guesswork, it's data. The second major update comes from the wreckage itself. Investigators have now confirmed something crucial about the left engine and its pylon. The pylon being the structure that connects the engine to the wing. Inman stated clearly, the bulk of the left engine pylon was still attached to the left engine when it separated from the wing. That detail changes everything about how investigators interpret the failure sequence. It means the engine didn't just fall off the engine and its mount detached together. That's not the same as a simple engine fire or even an engine explosion. It points to a structural failure at the wing pylon interface, which is one of the most heavily stressed parts of the airplane. Both the engine and pylon have now been moved to a secure facility for metallurgical analysis, where experts will examine every inch for fracture lines, fatigue cracks, and evidence of overheating. Metallurgy might sound like a lab thing, and it is, but it's how investigators can literally read the metal to see whether it snapped, melted, or slowly cracked over time. What's more, search teams found additional attachment fragments and hardware in the grass beside runway 17R. That proves the engine separation began on the runway, not after liftoff. The timing aligns with the early footage showing a burst of flame beneath the left wing, followed by the engine detaching moments later. Right now, the NTSB is zeroing in on 3 possibilities: a primary structural failure of the pylon or wing connection, an internal engine event that tore through the mount, or a chain reaction where one triggered the other. Investigators are being cautious. They're not ruling anything in or out, but the condition of that pylon is now a centerpiece of the investigation. As Inman put it, this area will not be the sole focus, but it's definitely a key one. And that makes sense. The MD-11's pylon design carries immense loads. Each engine weighs roughly 10,000 pounds, hanging under a wing carrying fuel and hydraulic lines. If that connection fails under stress, it's not just thrust you lose, it's structure, hydraulics, and fuel containment, all in one violent instant. One of the biggest misconceptions about this crash got cleared up in the latest briefing. Early reports said the aircraft reached about 475 feet before crashing. The NTSB has now corrected that number, explaining that the GPS data needed adjustment. When you convert that correctly, the true altitude was only about 100 feet above ground level. That single correction changes everything about how we interpret the event. 100 feet is nothing in aviation terms, it's the height of a 10-story building. At that point, there's simply no recovery window. The aircraft was already at takeoff power, gear likely coming up, and the crew's focus on climb out. When that engine separated and the warning bell went off, they had almost zero altitude and no time to troubleshoot. To give some context, the MD-11 typically rotates, meaning it lifts off around 180 knots, depending on weight. At that moment, the airplane is barely stable, with just enough airflow over the wings to keep climbing. Losing one engine then is survivable. Losing an entire engine plus part of the wing structure is not. That's when pilots enter what's called the no-win zone. It's a term used informally, but it's real. There's a point after takeoff where you're too fast to stop, too low to turn, and too heavy to climb safely with major damage. This also reinforces why NTSB officials keep emphasizing that the aircraft failed right at the most vulnerable second of flight. The MD-11 was just past V1, the decision speed, where a crew is committed to takeoff. If something breaks after that, you're going airborne no matter what. And for Flight 2976, that decision point coincided almost perfectly with the moment of mechanical failure. So when we picture what happened, an airplane fighting asymmetric thrust, bleeding hydraulic fluid, burning fuel, and losing lift on one side, it's clear the pilots never had a real chance to recover. And that's not speculation, that's just physics. While the public has moved on to headlines, the crash site itself is still very much alive, both literally and operationally. Even days after the accident, spot fires continue to flare up inside piles of compressed paper and industrial debris. It's a strange and sobering image, a half-mile stretch of wreckage where smoke still rises, surrounded by hundreds of feet of fire hose laid out across the industrial yard. But firefighters are deliberately holding back. Adding more water could wash away the chemical traces, scorch patterns, and metallic residues that investigators rely on to reconstruct what happened. Right now, the scene is being managed like a battlefield of data. Over 500 people have rotated through local firefighters, police, NTSB engineers, FBI hazard teams, and UPS's own safety division. Everyone has a role. The NTSB structural engineers have already finished a LiDAR scan of the entire debris field. That's a laser-based 3D mapping system that captures every contour of the wreckage down to the millimeter, allowing investigators later to fly virtually through the crash scene long after the real debris is cleared. The FBI's involvement might surprise some viewers, but it's not about terrorism, it's about safety. The MD-11 carried high-pressure bottles for oxygen and fire suppression systems. After a crash, those can explode if disturbed. The FBI's bomb tech units are helping neutralize those hazards, and so far, they've made safe about half of more than 30 pressurized bottles scattered across the site. The next stage is heavy recovery. The NTSB has called in specialized aviation salvers contractors who know how to lift and move aircraft wreckage without bending or scratching critical evidence. It's a delicate job, made harder because the crash hit scrap yards filled with similar-looking metals and alloys. Each fragment has to be verified before it's moved. Eventually, the larger structures, wing sections, landing gear, fuselage panels will be relocated off-site to a hangar where investigators can begin piecing the airplane back together. This is the unglamorous, painstaking part of crash forensics, the real science that happens behind the caution tape. Parallel to the physical work on the ground, another team is digging through an equally important type of evidence: paperwork. Just weeks before the crash, the MD-11 underwent what's known as a heavy check in San Antonio, Texas. That's one of the most comprehensive overhauls an airliner can get, a deep inspection covering structure, systems, hydraulics, and sometimes corrosion treatment inside the wings and fuel tanks. The NTSB, together with the FAA, has now retrieved the full set of job cards from that maintenance event. Job cards are the official records that list every single task performed, who did it, when it was done, and who signed it off. These are gold to investigators. Each one can reveal whether a part was replaced, an inspection skipped, or a torque spec missed. What they'll do next is cross-reference those records with the FAA's oversight database to see if any repairs were done around the center wing box or pylon attachments, the areas now suspected to have failed. So far, officials have been clear. There is no evidence yet linking maintenance work to the crash. But that doesn't mean the paperwork gets ignored. Every bolt touched during that heavy check will be physically verified against what's found in the wreckage. If something was repaired, investigators will make sure that repair met design specs. If something was inspected, they'll verify how and by whom. It's easy to turn this into a blame narrative, but that's not the NTSB's purpose. Their goal is traceability, to follow the data from wrench to wing, from inspection sheet to failure surface. Whether it turns out to be a maintenance issue or not, the process ensures that nothing slips through the cracks literally or figuratively. As the site work wraps up, the investigation is shifting from the field to the lab. UPS has voluntarily provided what the NTSB calls an exemplary aircraft. Another MD-11 inches the same configuration with the same GE engines. Investigators will crawl through it, photographing and measuring the pylon structure, wiring routes, and hydraulic lines to compare how an intact aircraft looks versus what they found in Louisville. This kind of side-by-side study is invaluable. It helps confirm which damage on the wreckage was caused by impact and which might have started in flight. At the same time, a group of operations specialists is already working inside MD-11 simulators. They're recreating possible scenarios: a fire alarm at rotation, sudden asymmetric thrust, partial hydraulic loss. They'll match these simulations with the CVR and FDR timelines to see which sequence of warnings best fits that mysterious repeating bell heard on the cockpit recording. It's methodical detective work, one system failure at a time. This third briefing marks the final on-scene update from Louisville. From here, updates will come through press releases and Washington-based analysis. The flight data recorder is still being decoded, and it carries more than 400 data parameters: engine performance, control inputs, hydraulic pressure, everything. The NTSB says it'll take several days to validate that data. We can expect a preliminary report within 2 to 4 weeks, but the final report, the one that names the cause, could take a year or more. And that's the hard truth about aviation safety. It's slow, technical, and relentless. But it's also how every tragedy turns into a lesson that saves lives. Okay, thank you for watching, and subscribe for more breakdown when the next update comes from Washington. See you around.